Rarely do literary scholars stop with straight analysis. In Module 3, we are writing longer papers about major works, so this is a great time to step into the shoes of real literary scholars and to formulate our own arguments about the meaning and significance of our chosen works. In this lecture, we will look at how to move beyond straight analysis and into scholarship. Even in literary argument, strong analysis and direct textual evidence are still the basis of the discussion. In this paper, however, we can make use of some of the critical lenses we read about earlier in the term to take a strong look at our chosen work. It would be impossible to write an advanced literary argument without a good understanding of the basics. As you read your chosen novel, play, or collection of poems, you should read actively and take note of all the things you would for any analysis. In stories, we need an understanding of the plot. Remember, focus on conflict, climax, and resolution rather than just on the events. The characters, the setting, the point of view, and the themes. With poetry, we'll focus on the speaker, the diction, any set form, rhyme or rhythm, the figures of speech, and the theme. Just as you did in the shorter papers, choose quotations as you go that might help you illustrate your analysis and eventually the argumentative points you will make. For many literary scholars, their work is influenced by one or more of the schools of criticism that we read about earlier in the course. Then, knowing about the various types of criticism was a matter of understanding the biases and perspectives of the writers you might encounter in conducting secondary research. Now it's your turn to join their ranks. In some cases, a particular novel, play, or poet might have obvious ties with a school of literary criticism. For example, Shakespeare's Hamlet is an easy target for psychoanalytic criticism. Susan Glaspell's short play Trifles invites a feminist reading. A classic slavery-era novel such as Mark Twain's Huckleberry Finn would invite sociological criticism around racial issues. In other cases, you might want to adopt a critical lens that doesn't spring to mind immediately. It can be fun to tackle a work of literature from one of these perspectives. You can also take a look at the secondary research to get some ideas of what professional critics focus on with your chosen work. Don't forget, you can go back to the Literary Research and Criticism tab in our course LibGuide for more information on the various schools of criticism. Over the next few slides, we're going to look at thesis statements that would be appropriate for straight analysis papers, like the ones you did in Module 2, and those that belong in a literary argument paper, like you're writing in Module 3. You might recognize the thesis statements under literary argument. They are the samples from the Writing About Literature section of our assignment guide. The first set, analysis. 3 characters in Flannery O'Connor's Revelation stand out in the story. Ruby Turpin, her husband Claude, and Mary Grace. Argument. Flannery O'Connor's Revelation explores Southern racism, sin, and salvation through quirky characters. The papers that result from these 2 thesis statements will be similar in that the focus organization is on character, but the one on the right clearly adds sociological issues of racism and religion to the mix. Because I Could Not Stop for Death is one of Dickinson's most famous poems and reveals her interesting style. This thesis would focus on the formal elements of a single poem. Emily Dickinson's interest in death is revealed in several of her most famous poems. This thesis would head up a larger discussion of several poems. A character analysis of a single story is represented in the first thesis. Jhumpa Lahiri's The Interpreter of Maladies features contrasting characters in Mrs. Dawes and Mr. Kapasi, while the second delves more into the sociological issues surrounding family and marriage roles in 2 stories. While the families are radically different, both The Interpreter of Maladies and Sunday in the Park reveal interesting clues about the roles people play in modern families. As usual, I leave you with a reminder that I can help you craft your thesis. Don't be afraid to get help from me, from our awesome librarians, and from the tutors in the Learning Center.